On a bright and sunny day during Lunar New Year, a national holiday that arrived not long after the new calendar year began, the grandparents were sitting in their modest apartment watching a video on a small screen. The video showed a baby babbling happily, and both grandmother and grandfather seemed completely enchanted, their faces lighting up with delight as they praised their little grandson. Their joy was so genuine that it almost seemed as if the cheerful sounds of the baby's voice filled the entire room with warmth. The grandpa wondered aloud who the baby resembled to be this intelligent at such a young age, and the grandma proudly claimed that the child obviously resembled their family. The couple continued their endless stream of compliments, clearly too charmed to contain their happiness, while their daughter Gia, who was currently a freelancer without a stable occupation, in simple terms, unemployed, busied herself preparing food for the family. Hila, while stirring the pots and checking the dishes, questioned her mother in irritation, asking if she even realized that she had already shown the same video more than 30 times. Gia remarked with frustration that by now even she could memorize the baby's babbling from repetition alone. The grandma simply dismissed her daughter's complaint and admitted that she had long lost count because her grandson was far too adorable to resist watching again and again. Gia, her patience wearing thin, furiously reminded them that if they were not willing to help her with the preparations, then the least they could do was stop disturbing her. She snapped that they should not pick up the food with their bare hands, as if the kitchen were a marketplace. Trying to justify himself, the grandpa argued that freshly cooked food always tasted best, and he failed to see why he should not eat it immediately while it was warm and fragrant. Gia responded with growing frustration, insisting that if they wanted it so badly, they should prepare it themselves. There were 3 adults present in the household, yet somehow all the work seemed to fall solely on her shoulders. The grandma shot her a stern glare, reminding her that she herself had declared her wish to live in this house indefinitely, and therefore she was obliged to at least contribute in this manner. Since she was not leaving the home and was spending her days idly within its walls, the least she could do was take responsibility for cooking. The grandpa nodded in complete agreement, stating that his wife's words were 100% correct. He added that if Jia truly considered this situation unfair, then she should find herself a partner quickly, as they continued to enjoy the comfort of romantic companionship with each other. Baffled by their words and seeing their actions, Jia quickly excused herself, pretending that she had heard Jimin arriving. Moments later, their granddaughter Jimin entered, running toward her grandma, who immediately called out to her affectionately. Jiamin assured them that things had been fine so far. Her mother urged her to step inside, questioning whether the traffic had been troublesome on the way. Jim admitted with a weary sigh that she felt tired because she had been suffering from leg cramps. Jimin, ever eager, called out and offered her a massage if her legs hurt that much, asking if she could at least visit him in return. Jia smiled softly at her sister, removing her apron and handing it to Jimin, remarking that it had been such a long time and she had missed her deeply. She laughed and insisted that Jimin wear the floral matted apron she had carefully prepared for her as a gift. Jia's younger sister smiled, commenting that even in such a simple apron she looked good, and it would be perfect if Jia could also manage to feed her noodles successfully this year. Jimin urged her to wear the apron herself, but Jia furiously refused, glaring at her sister. With her characteristic fiery temper, she demanded that Jimin wear it while she was being nice, warning in jest that she might otherwise end up killing her. Their mother, unimpressed with Jia's behavior, struck her lightly and remarked that she simply could not abandon her gangster-like personality. Jia screamed in protest, demanding to know why her mother had hit her, and she insisted that she had been handling all the preparations alone from the beginning. She argued that at the very least they could take turns in shifts instead of leaving everything to her, and she questioned whether their intent was merely to let Jimin rest, since she had only just arrived. Jimu intervened politely, requesting his sister-in-law not to be so harsh since Jimun had been struggling recently. Their mother, overhearing this, immediately jumped to conclusions and asked if this meant there would soon be a third child. Jimun quickly explained that the third pregnancy had not been planned at all, but it had happened because of Jimu's persistence. Meanwhile, their father directed Jia to focus on peeling the vegetables instead of standing around distracted, questioning if she had perhaps drunk alcohol since she looked absent-minded. Jia, lost in thought, absent-mindedly peeled the leaves as her mind wandered. Her thoughts drifted to a curious memory. Jimin had once mentioned someone being a perfect match for her, and she wondered if that had truly been the case considering the age difference. She questioned how such a thought even came to her, recalling the boy who was the age of an uncle. Suddenly, a calm voice from behind remarked that she still possessed her foul mouth as always. Startled, Jia turned around and saw a man eating chicken. She was shocked to see him munching on chicken breast in the designated smoking area and immediately wondered if he had gone mad. She questioned in her mind who he was. The man casually introduced himself as Mchul, a childhood acquaintance from next door who had always worn headphones and avoided attention. Jia could hardly believe it at first, until the memory came rushing back to her. He screamed internally in disbelief. This was the same skinny boy who had spent hours with his game console. Minchul asked if she truly did not recognize him and wondered if he had changed that much. Jia admitted to herself that she could hardly recognize him, and thought again about the absurd sight of him eating chicken breast in such a place. Minchul retorted that there was no law forbidding anyone from eating chicken breast in a smoking area. Jia scolded him, insisting that he should eat such things at home instead. Minchul explained that he had intended to do so, but his family had kept urging him to join the holiday feast, and he had calculated that he would gain far too many calories case if he gave in. Jia silently concluded that he must truly be crazy. Mchul, now 32, was the same age as Jia. They had lived in the same housing complex since childhood, yet she realized she had never truly considered him a friend. Back in school, there had always been one or two timid students who never blended in with the rest, and Mchul had been one of them. He had barely dared to greet her despite being from the same neighborhood. Perhaps at that time she had felt a faint curiosity toward him, but she questioned why such thoughts resurfaced now. Jia stole another glance at Mchul and admitted inwardly that he had changed a great deal. Time had indeed transformed him from that awkward boy into a respectable adult. He now worked as a programmer at a well-known mid-sized company, holding the rank of assistant manager. Though his specialty was nothing remarkable, he managed to live comfortably and securely. Jia, in contrast, felt herself sinking deeper into despair. Her life lacked both direction and dignity, and she believed her only specialty was being cursed for simply existing. She thought of herself as a useless daughter lingering at home, wishing in despair that the earth would swallow her by the next morning. She considered it outrageous that Mchul, once an awkward boy, was now far ahead of her, and she even wished she could simply bite her tongue and disappear. Mchul politely asked how she had been and how her life was going. Jia replied vaguely that nothing special had occurred and asked about his life in return. She secretly wondered whether she appeared to him as someone living a good life. Mchul explained that he lived an average routine, going to work, exercising, playing games, washing up, and sleeping. Jia thought that such a routine hardly seemed average at all. In her eyes, it was a well-balanced and enviable life. Mchul confessed that he too once thought so, but adults around him disagreed as his parents' nagging had worsened in recent years. They constantly reminded him that he was aging and should marry soon. He questioned whether marriage was a simple formula, since it clearly required more than one person. He elaborated further, mentioning that his parents had even tried to register him with a marriage information company. The registration fee alone was $500, and he lamented that he could have bought a significant number of games with that money instead. Jia realized from his words that his family was entirely serious. She compared it to her own family, and noted that although they nagged her frequently, they had not yet gone to such extremes. In a moment of impulsive thought, she suggested that the two of them simply marry each other. Her reasoning was that since both suffered constant nagging about marriage, such a decision would silence their families at once. She even pointed out that they were both single, and thus it would be a win-win solution. The seriousness with which Mchul stared back at her startled her. She panicked inwardly, wondering why he could not take a simple joke lightly. She reminded herself that she had always been skilled at breaking the mood. Yet to her astonishment, Mchul turned toward her father and calmly proposed marriage. Her father immediately affirmed the proposal, and before she knew it, she was standing in the aisle with Mchul to become Minchul's wife. Soon after, they were seen spending a honeymoon in a hotel. When Mchul emerged from the shower, he expressed his genuine belief that marriage was indeed a good thing, confessing that he had never expected such a day to come. Jia, overwhelmed with sweat and confusion, silently questioned herself about what exactly she had gotten herself into, for the sake of what they actually ended up marrying for. Jia thought that was how they got married, and are now on the very first night of their honeymoon after seeing the passport. She found it strange, questioning why she was in a foreign country when everything around her felt incredibly real. She pinched herself and realized with certainty that she had gotten married, and this was indeed real. No matter how much she found the whole situation odd, she thought that if she was truly married to that man, then she should not keep doubting. Yet she could not help sneaking a glance at his six-pack abs and muscles. She slapped herself in frustration, wondering what kind of deal she had made, as she reminded herself to stay composed and regain control of her thoughts. When Mchul questioned what she was doing, Jia hurriedly responded that she was only going to sleep. She then questioned what he was doing, for which he calmly explained that he could not find it, even though he had brought it with him. He added that it was a tool meant for ensuring a peaceful night together. When Jia heard that, she realized he had come prepared. As he began searching, she suddenly struck upon the realization of what exactly he was trying to find, and she could hardly believe it. She wondered if he was looking for a condom or something along those lines. The thought made her freeze. Even though they were married, she found the idea too sudden, and she questioned herself about what she was about to do. When Mchul called her name, Jia screamed that her heart was not ready yet. He calmly repeated her words about her heart not being ready and then handed her earplugs. He explained that he did not usually snore, but whenever he was exhausted, it happened. He then told her that he was going to sleep first because of exhaustion. Wishing her good night before closing his eyes, Jia was left speechless, staring at him in disbelief. She reluctantly put on the earplugs, thinking to herself what exactly she had expected from him in the first place. The next morning arrived. Honeymoons, Jia reflected, were usually something that everyone, regardless of gender, dreamed of at least once in life, to experience joy, but sometimes they could also mark the beginning of conflict in marriage. With that in mind, she thought they had to be cautious in how they managed it. On the second morning of their honeymoon, Jia questioned herself about what she should do and what she was supposed to wear. After thinking, she chose something exotic, stylish, and sophisticated. She reasoned that a relaxed outfit, one that did not make it too obvious she was on honeymoon, would suit the day better. When Mchul entered and questioned whether she was not ready yet, Jia asked him to wait a moment, saying she was nearly done. He questioned how much longer she would take, but when she turned to see him standing in only casual pants and a t-shirt, her patience broke. She screamed in disbelief, calling him crazy and questioning his sense of clothing. She pointed out that the real problem was his outfit, especially the socks with sandals. He argued that they were comfortable and that it did not matter since no one would pay attention. Jia shouted that she herself was seeing it and declared this was no time to neglect appearances. She grabbed his ear, pulling him inside the shop to fix the matter. Once at the shop, Jia reminded herself that she had said she would handle it, but deep down she felt uncertain. She had barely gone out in the past few years and her confidence wavered. She thought that he would probably look better with her help, and no matter what he ended up wearing, she would simply say it looked fine, so that they could continue with their travel plans without further delay. When Mchul stepped out of the changing room, Jia clapped her hands in advance, stating that he looked good before even seeing him. But the moment her eyes fell on him, she burst into a scream. He stood in clothes so absurd that she could not believe it. He questioned her reaction, asking if it was not fine, since at least he would not get hit by a car while wearing something so bright. Jia snapped, telling him not to joke around because his outfit reminded her of an animal's defense mechanism. She punched him lightly and insisted he at least dress like a proper human, handing him an exotic Hawaiian shirt and matching pants instead. When Mchul asked if he truly looked good, Jia replied firmly that he did. She added that, at least to her, he looked good enough and they should just accept it. Feeling reassured, Mchul went back to the shop assistant and asked for 7 sets of the exact clothes he was wearing. Jia hurriedly asked him to stop. He questioned her, reminding her that she had said he looked good. So, would it not be perfect to buy multiple sets? Jia stood dumbfounded, wondering what kind of life this man had lived until now. Jia asked why he wanted to buy several identical sets of clothes anyway. She told him that she would pick out more for him and asked him to go back inside and try them, which he agreed to do. As he looked around, Minchul's eyes landed on the swimsuit section, and he called out to her, questioning whether their next itinerary was the banana boat ride. Jia nodded quickly, saying there was. Minchul that she was selecting proper clothes for him, then he would pick out swimwear for her. Processing his words, Jia grew flustered, denying his words as she became too embarrassed to admit her real thoughts. After buying all the things, Jia felt embarrassed that Minchul had truly purchased the swimsuit he had chosen and had actually gone through with it. She realized he had not exactly bought it for her as a gift, but had handed it over, saying she should wear it since she had picked his clothes earlier. It made a certain sense, yet she still felt as if something was missing. She thought that he was not the type of man who would bother with details like that, so it surprised her. Inside the changing room, Jia remarked to herself that Minchul had not even told her what kind of swimsuit he had picked. She grew nervous, confusing herself while recalling that earlier she had seen many bold designs on display. She knew Minchul was not someone who usually put much thought into such things, yet she could not stop wondering. When she finally looked at the swimsuit, she was surprised to see a full-body black one. Walking toward him, she questioned how it looked and whether she was supposed to like it. Minchul explained calmly that the color had caught his eye when he first saw it in the catalog, and it offered strong resistance to both cold and water, while also being easy to move in. Jia felt so frustrated that she imagined killing him and burying him right there in the sand. Ya told him she wanted to ask something real quick, right in the middle of the honeymoon resort. Jia asked if his eyes were really fine and told him to look around at what everyone else was wearing. She then questioned why he thought those people wore such swimsuits. Minchul answered simply that it was because of the hot weather. Jia responded that because the weather was hot, everyone had taken off their clothes, but they were the only ones who had not realized it. As she lost her words and questioned what he planned to do wearing something like that, she felt so embarrassed that she doubted she would enjoy herself. But before she knew it, laughter escaped her lips. Despite her earlier doubts, she found the swimsuit extremely comfortable, and to her surprise, she enjoyed herself to the fullest. They even took selfies together and had far more fun than she expected. At dawn, while walking along the beach, Jia thought about the rest of the itinerary. Minchul called her name, questioning if she felt tired and telling her to take a rest. Jia argued that they had only a few days left and still had much to do. Minchul pointed to the back of her heel, and Jia was surprised to see it hurt. He told her he had a feeling she did not realize it, and he had been right. Jia tried to dismiss it, saying she was fine and it was only a scratch. Minchul disagreed and told her to climb on his back for a piggyback ride. Jia mentioned the remaining itinerary, but Minchul insisted that he could not bear seeing her like that. He told her to stop talking and just get on. Reluctantly, she let him carry her. Jia questioned whether she was not heavy, insisting she could walk. Minchul denied it, saying it was a good workout for him and that her weight was perfect for exercise. Jia almost choked him in embarrassment, wondering how long it had been since she was last carried on someone's back. The sensation made her feel oddly reassured. In a playful mood, she blew air on Minchul's ear, causing him to scream in surprise and question why she had done it. Jia smiled mischievously, saying she could. Minchul shouted that if she had complaints, she should simply voice them instead of surprising him, to which Jia laughed. As she looked at the sunset from his back, she told him they should stop and take pictures. Minchul reminded her that they had already taken plenty earlier. Jia argued that this was different because they had only taken photos at the beach before. Jila thought it was strange. As she recalled her mother advising her to take care of Mchul during their honeymoon, she remembered hearing that couples often fought a lot during such trips. She wondered if it was only because they had just been married for a few days, yet instead of fighting, they had been having good times. To be honest, she admitted to herself that she had enjoyed it. It had been years since she had had such carefree fun. The happiness she felt was so overwhelming that she wished she could live there permanently. After all, she considered herself more like a foreigner than a Korean. Then she remembered the earlier piggyback ride and screamed screamed inwardly at the thought. She recalled how casually he had asked her after she heard her heel to climb on his back. She thought her heart was about to burst, not only because of his wide back, but also from the warmth she felt. She scolded herself, thinking what kind of nonsense it was to feel that way. But the truth was, she had been so lonely that just having someone by her side made her happy. She glanced at Mchul in his usual nonsensical state, feeling her accumulated affection had finally reached its minimum. Dia admitted to herself that she knew this honeymoon had cost a lot, but she had to be happy. She thought that even if she had spent her money on travel within Korea, she would have had fun, yet she realized that this was not so bad either. The next day, after a honeymoon trip that turned out smoother than she had expected, they returned home safely. At home, while tasting the dishes, Jia praised her mother and questioned why the side dishes looked so exquisite that day, asking if there was some special occasion. Her mother answered that, of course, it was to celebrate their safe return. Jia questioned whether she had prepared everything just for her, thanking her sincerely. But before finishing, she noticed several boxes stacked nearby and asked about them, saying it felt like something was going on, perhaps moving. Her mother explained that it was not them moving, but her. She said she was going to live at son-in-law Minchul's house. She reminded Jia that she had already told her she would move there once Jia returned from her honeymoon. Jia realized it truly seemed like that was the case. Both her mother and father gave their daughter their blessings, telling her to live happily and take care of herself, while Jia sat there, still confused, questioning if it was not too sudden. The scene then shifted to their home, where Jia sat down in a rather intense mood. Minchul called out to her, questioning if they should finally begin their discussion. Jia recalled one random thing from her childhood. When she was young, she often hummed an anime theme song without knowing its meaning. The lyric said something along the lines of, "Try and try, it is okay to make mistakes, because one is not an adult yet." She hummed it carelessly, back then, not thinking too deeply. Only later did she realize the meaning, which was that if one made mistakes as an adult, it could cause serious trouble. But even then, people were still allowed to stumble and learn in their lives. Reflecting on that memory, she felt her own life had turned too extreme. She had once said something wrong, and because of that, she ended up marrying Minchul. She had just returned home from her honeymoon and was kicked out right away, and somehow they began living together. Once they settled in, Minchul questioned whether they should discuss their contract first, treating it as the initial checklist. Jia questioned what this was about, clearly confused. She explained that she only had a small concern in her mind. Jia still felt uncertain about the points she wanted to include in the contract. She thought to herself that perhaps it was unnecessary, as whatever had to happen would eventually happen anyway. Minchul asked whether she had written everything down and suggested they reveal them at the same time, counting to 3. He looked excited about it. When the countdown ended, Minchul presented his conditions. His checklist included that Jia should quit smoking, that she should not bother Rat, and that if there were any complaints, she should address them right away. Hila, on the other hand, had written down that he should not enter her room recklessly, that he should not be forceful, and that if anything occurred, they should discuss it as much as possible. When Hia saw his first condition, she immediately questioned whether that was not too much to ask so suddenly. She mentioned that even her father had failed to make her quit smoking. She pointed out that quitting was not just about stopping, it was lifelong suffering. Minchul shrugged and said he understood, but he could not bear the smell of cigarettes. He asked whether she could at least try quitting, little by little. Hila argued that he had not even bothered to understand how hard it was for her to begin reducing it. She felt frustrated, asking what this whole thing even meant. Minchul asked if she had not already mentioned something about it earlier. Suddenly, Jia let out a scream, claiming something had just touched her leg. Minchul calmly affirmed it. Jia said it felt like something with fur. Looking down, she saw a cat. Minchul praised the animal, calling him Rat. Jia blinked, asking if the cat's name was really Rat, and questioned the reason behind it. Minchul explained that since cats loved rats, he named her Rat. Jia joked that if she herself loved chicken feet, then her name should be Jia Chicken Feet. Jia greeted the cat warmly, admitting that she had not known they would be living with one since Minchul had never told her. Minchul replied that he had not known he would end up living with her either. He asked if she hated cats, to which Jia denied it, saying she did not. Yet when she looked at Minchul's face alongside the cat's, she was mesmerized by the sight of both their twinkling eyes. She admitted quietly that if she had to choose, she would probably like them. Minchul and Rat both appeared smug at her response. Minchul asked if she wanted to hold the cat. Jia grew uneasy but nodded. Minchul assured her it would be fine, as Rat was gentle. When Jia finally held her, she asked Minchul one more question. She said if she had told him that she hated cats or that she was allergic to them, what would he have done? She wondered if he would have kicked her out. Minchul denied it immediately, saying he would have put her in a separate house instead. Jia was shocked and questioned whether that made any sense, asking what about the money? Minchul replied that money was not the problem. He admitted it was indeed written in the contract, but still, they were married. He reminded her that she had trusted him enough to leave her parents' house, so he felt it was his duty to do at least that much. Hearing those words, Jia was touched. She realized that Minchul had put far more thought into their marriage than she had expected. To be honest, she had not given it much thought herself. With that, the two of them signed their contract under mutual agreement. On the marriage contract, their relationship was clearly defined as being based strictly on mutual respect. Minchul's conditions included, she should return within 10 minutes after smoking, she should not bother Rat, neither of them should enter the other's room without permission, neither should meddle in the other's private life, and both should prioritize making conversation if there was ever a complaint. Jia then questioned if there was truly nothing more to add. Mchul said he had forgotten one important thing. He explained that the contract marriage could be cancelled by either party at any time. Jia paused before responding that this was indeed the same condition she had mentioned at the beginning. She noted that their contract marriage was strictly based on mutual interest between them, and could be terminated immediately by one side if necessary. She reflected inwardly that this contract was like their first lie, created so that they could be forgiven by society despite their immaturity. Mchul then called her name and stated that he would be in her care from then on. Jia smiled and shook his hand. Looking at the contract, she thought that no one could ever predict how such a silly agreement would one day make them cry and laugh so much. That was how Jia and Mchul signed their contract. Contrary to their earlier worries, Jia spent her very first night in Mchul's house without any issues. She had already purchased the essentials, the bed and the chair, thinking she had bought everything she might need. Still, she realized she would only be able to organize her belongings properly once the furniture arrived. Knowing Mchul would begin work the next day, Jia lay down. The blanket her mother had bought for her felt so soft that she wondered if she should try to sleep right away. She questioned inwardly whether this place was truly her home from now on, since it was still difficult to believe she was married and had to live here starting today. That meant Mchul was in the room next door, most likely playing games. Jia thought she should have experienced living with someone outside her family beforehand. She felt nervous, believing she might not be able to sleep properly on her first day. Yet, before she realized it, she had already fallen into a deep slumber, sleeping soundly. The next morning, Jia woke up to the sound of a knife moving in the kitchen. She wondered what the noise was, especially since it was still so early. Mchul replied that he had been there the entire time. He apologized, saying he was simply making breakfast out of habit. Jia questioned this, and he asked if, since she was already awake, she wanted to eat together. Jia asked him whether he was actually taking care of her now, adding that of course she would be thankful. Observing him, Jia thought to herself that a company employee who made his own breakfast was surprisingly diligent. Now she felt she should see for herself just how good his cooking skills were. She watched uneasily as Mchul tossed every vegetable into the mixer. The sight made her sweat in concern. Soon, he proudly presented his dish, a chicken breast protein shake. Handing it to her, he explained that this was breakfast. Jia stared in disbelief, questioning what it even was. He insisted it was their morning meal. She reluctantly gulped it down, but was disgusted by the taste, immediately asking if this was truly supposed to count as breakfast. Mchul denied that it was strange, maintaining confidence. With a proud expression, he then handed her a protein bar. Jia, losing patience, threw it down in frustration. She screamed at him, asking if he was kidding her and calling this breakfast, to which Mchul calmly affirmed it. Jia yelled at him to stop joking around and to give her something normal instead. She said she would gladly eat even just cereal. Mchul, sweating, asked whether a protein bar was not normal food. Jia retorted angrily that he was the abnormal one. She announced that since he was going to work later anyway, he would eat a delicious lunch without her, so this strange breakfast would not matter. She muttered that he was too petty. When she looked at his own lunch, which consisted of nothing but chicken breast and sweet potatoes, she could not believe it. She thought to herself that there was no way a human could survive on only those things. Convinced there must be better food hidden in the fridge, she opened it, only to be greeted by rows of sweet potatoes, bottled water, and chicken breast. Jia stood frozen, lost in disbelief. Finally, she admitted defeat and apologized, saying she would no longer complain about his side dishes from then on. She promised she would try to behave better starting today. Mchul then asked her if there was really nothing else she could eat. Jia denied that, insisting that there were plenty of things she could enjoy. So much food that just looking at it made her feel healthier, and she claimed she was excited by the thought. Mchul asked why she simply did not go out and eat soup and rice nearby. Jia responded by asking if he was seriously telling her to eat soup and rice alone, and if she could really do that. Mchul, looking confused, asked what she meant. He reminded her that of course she could, as she had the right. He added that while this diet was enough for him, she did not need to force herself to eat it, and if she wanted something else, she could go ahead. Hila silently scolded herself for being foolish. She wondered why she had even thought they needed to have breakfast together. Her mother had always forced her to eat breakfast with the family, even scolding her when necessary, and that habit had stuck with her. Watching Mchul prepare to leave, she asked where he was going. He answered simply that he was going to work. Jia smiled and wished him luck, though she muttered that she did not like the fact that he had to go to work while she stayed home with nothing to do. Mchul shook his head, denying that this was the case. Jia questioned his expression, explaining that she was currently searching for a job and that today was only her first day since moving. She said there was no need to humiliate her in that way. Mchul clarified gently that it was not what he meant. Tia gave him a faint smile, asking him to take care on his way and promising to see him in the evening. Mchul affirmed her words before heading out. Once he left, Jia felt a sudden surge of joy. She admitted to herself that she was going to play as much as she could. She loved the freedom and she wanted to enjoy it fully before the money in her bank account eventually ran out. The scene then shifted to the inside of a car, where a friend envied the young couples he saw. Suddenly, someone knocked on the car window and called him. Assistant Manager Mchul, saying it had been a long time since they had last met. Sangu, Mchul's subordinate, questioned whether Mchul knew why he had been so surprised. He explained that Mchul had decided to take a 10-day vacation after the national holiday ended. He added that he had informed the CEO about it and even sent a vacation request by email for submission. Sang-gu admitted that he was quite shocked by this decision. He remarked that Mchul had suddenly called him during the lunar holiday, when the company had been urging him to use his remaining leave days, but Mchul had always refused. Sang-gu wondered aloud what had changed his mind, pointing out that there should at least have been some kind of explanation for such a request. He acknowledged that Mchul was unpredictable, yet still, as he glanced at Mchul and caught the faint smile on his face, he asked whether something good had truly happened, since it was unusual to see him smile. Mchul remarked calmly that it was nothing much. Recalling Jia's farewell smile, he admitted that having someone waiting at home actually felt nice. Sang-gu repeated those words in surprise, muttering that there was someone waiting at home. Mchul revealed it was his wife, which made Sang-gu slam the brakes in shock. Startled, Sang-gu demanded to know what he meant by wife. Was Mchul talking about a character in a game? Mchul denied it immediately, saying it was his real wife as he had married just last week. From behind, Suyeon groaned in confusion, asking who had done what and with whom. Soon, the entire office went wild, loudly declaring that Mchul had gotten married and showering him with congratulations. Mchul smiled faintly, telling them that he had brought souvenirs for everyone and they could feel free to pick one. The employees were thrilled. One of them remarked that it was a shame Mchul had not invited them to the wedding. Mchul explained that since it had been a certain kind of marriage, they had kept it simple and celebrated only with family. Suyeon suddenly remembered that he still had unfinished coding work. He admitted that he was not required to finish it that very day, but he wanted to complete it nonetheless. Before he could continue, Suyeon grabbed him, saying they needed to talk. Suyeon locked him in a chokehold while Sang-gu screamed in pain, calling out to the manager and insisting he gave up, swearing he had done nothing wrong. Suyeon shouted at him that in situations like this, he should have simply said he did not have someone he liked. As his strength faded, Sang-gu gasped, asking how and why this had happened. He confessed that it made no sense to him either. He had never imagined Mchul getting married, certainly not right before the holidays, and not without even having a girlfriend. He admitted he had always assumed Mchul had no interest in women at all. He pointed out that a man who never drank alcohol, obsessed over fitness, and ignored women entirely must not even be interested in humans in the first place. Suyeon asked again why such a thing had happened. Suyeon herself was currently working as a manager at a mid-sized company, and her ideal type was a moderately good man. Yet that vague idea had left her single for 32 years. She often asked herself what exactly a good man was supposed to mean. Rumors sometimes spread about her, with people questioning why she was always in such a bad mood. Some said they had heard that the man who once approached her was actually divorced with 2 children. She had cried in private over it, lamenting whether it was truly that difficult to find a decent man to date. She insisted she was not asking for much, just someone who could understand her and share the same wavelength. At that moment, Mchul appeared, covering her work by saying he had finished it himself and asking her to check it. He handed her a cold drink without much expression. Suyeon found herself thinking that perhaps someone like Mchul was the type she wanted after all. The scene then shifted to a restaurant. Sang-gu declared confidently that if marriage was all she was worried about, it would be a piece of cake for him. He asked her which ceremonial hall she would prefer to check. Being Sayeon's junior from university and considered the romantic guy of the company, he also asked if 200,000 as a congratulatory money sounded good. Suyeon grew excited, saying it would be wonderful to hold the wedding in May, and that becoming a May bride sounded so beautiful. She even mentioned having 2 children would be perfect, but all those dreams were shattered in an instant. Suyeon sighed, admitting there was nothing she could do. She reminded herself that Mchul was not the only man in the world. Sang-gu agreed, saying there were many others, but he was still shocked to see Suyeon crying so heavily. That night, Sang-gu and Suyeon secretly spied on Mchul. Suyeon asked whether they truly needed to go this far, while Sang-gu pressed further, asking what she meant. At a time like this, one had to be sure. He suggested they make a bet, Mchul's marriage versus the end of the world. He asked which one she thought had a higher possibility. Suyeon declared the end of the world, but Sang-gu insisted they had to at least check whether Mchul was really married. Suyeon observed Mchul's actions closely, remarking that he was behaving like a man who truly knew a woman, and he wondered aloud if the figure they were about to see was really his wife. Suyeon grew hesitant, nervously asking where she was. She questioned what kind of woman Mchul could possibly like. Then both of them froze as they saw Jia crouched in a corner, smoking cigarettes. Suyeon broke into a nervous sweat, unable to process the sight. When Mchul reached Jia, he felt strangely hesitant, silently questioning what was wrong with Jia. Jia immediately confronted him, her tone sharp and scolding, while Suyeon clutched Sang-gu's arm in disbelief. She whispered about whether that fierce woman was truly Mchul's wife, and if he honestly preferred someone with such a dominant personality. Sang-gu hushed her quickly, insisting they remain still so they could hear the conversation more clearly. Jia demanded to know why Mchul had returned so late. Mchul asked the time, explaining that he had come straight back after finishing his workout. Jia pointed at the clock, saying it was already 8:20 p.m. She admitted that it was not extremely late, but argued that he should have at least called if he was going to be delayed. That way, she would have known whether to wait for dinner or eat first. She pressed him again, asking if he did not agree. Minchok wondered aloud if she had been waiting specifically so they could eat together. He reminded her that she had not wanted to eat with him that morning, which had led him to assume she preferred dining alone. Jia retorted firmly that the two situations were entirely different, arguing that it was simply common sense to notify one's partner in advance when running late. From their hiding spot, Sang-woo and Soo-yeon exchanged glances, remarking on her strong-willed personality and questioning whether the two were truly married. Mchul, unfazed, asked whether it was really acceptable for him to call her. He admitted that he had tried to avoid contacting her too often, believing she would find it uncomfortable. Jia demanded to know when she had ever said such a thing. Mchul replied that it had been back in the 5th grade of elementary school. Jia scoffed, reminding him that during that time they had not even owned phones. Mchul explained that perhaps she had forgotten. He recalled that it was around that time when he had once called to ask if she wanted to play, yet she had avoided him. Jia, embarrassed, insisted she could not remember such an incident. Mchul reassured her gently that it was fine if she did not remember, then tried to clarify what he meant. Just as he did, Jia stiffened, spotting something in the distance. Mchul asked what was wrong. Jia confessed that she had suddenly felt as though someone was watching them. Mchul dismissed the concern lightly, insisting that the point was simple, that it was perfectly fine for them to call each other about personal matters. Jia immediately agreed, asking when she had ever forbidden such a thing. Sang-woo wiped sweat from his forehead, thinking that had been a close call. Still, as he looked carefully at Jia, he felt nagged by a sense of familiarity, as though he had seen her somewhere before. Later at home, the two sat down for dinner. Just like breakfast, their meal consisted of chicken breast and protein shakes. Jia frowned, remarking that even zoo monkeys must eat better food than this. She then shifted the subject, saying she now remembered the innocent incident from 5th grade that he had mentioned. She joked that it must have been about 20 years ago, long enough for rivers and mountains to change twice. Hila asked if that was around the time she had stopped playing with him. She reflected aloud that in the past, she and Mchul had been very close, growing up in the same neighborhood, being the same age, attending the same kindergarten, and both coming from dual-income families. They had shared countless experiences. She realized they had once been inseparable. Then she asked herself, what had gone wrong? There had to have been a reason. Jia remembered that at that age, children often teased her simply for spending time with a boy. Perhaps because of that, their bond had gradually faded. Mchul would still call her, eager to share new games and inviting her to join, yet she had politely refused. Later, in middle school, he had greeted her warmly, but she had been the one to ignore him first. Now, as she thought about it, sweat prickled her skin. She admitted silently that she felt ashamed for behaving that way. She wondered why she had chosen to act so cold. More troubling was the realization that even now, though they were married, they had hardly spoken on a personal level. Their conversations had been limited strictly to marriage matters. Jia found herself unable to believe that this was true, yet she knew it was. The thought unsettled her deeply. She began to feel guilty about scolding him earlier, wondering if she was becoming heartless. Should she apologize? Was she truly such a cold person? Meanwhile, Mchul sat quietly, staring at his phone. After a pause, he sent Jia a short message. Curious, Jia checked her phone and burst out in surprise, exclaiming at how he had known she liked chicken feet. Unable to contain herself, she stormed into Mchul's room. Mchul frowned immediately, reminding her that they had agreed not to enter each other's rooms recklessly. Jia knocked against the door frame and retorted that she was only following the contract. She reminded him that Clause 5 clearly stated that whenever there was something to complain about, conversation should take priority. She announced firmly that she had something to complain about and insisted they should talk it out properly. With her arms crossed, she added that if he had a problem with this approach, he should say so now. Afterwards, while Jia prepared the dinner, she took out a chilled bottle of beer and remarked that the drink was cold, questioning if this one had been delivered recently. When Mincha called out for her, asking if she had something to talk about with him, she admitted that she had a complaint and wondered if he had made another mistake. Jia clarified that it was not exactly a mistake, but rather that he had failed to do the proper thing. When Minchal questioned what she meant, Jia explained that she was referring to the beer. She asked if it made any sense to eat chicken feet without beer, and as she banged on the table, Minchal sighed and asked if her complaint was about food again. If that was the case, then she could bring it up the next morning. Jia, however, replied that there was more to it. She reflected that the two of them had never really shared a deep conversation, so they ought to have one while enjoying simple street snacks. Minchal remarked that there was no strict rule about eating chicken feet as a snack, but Jia shushed him, insisting that chicken feet were equal to snacks, at least in their country. Smiling, she asked if he did not want to drink the beer she had poured for him. Minchal, dumbfounded, admitted that he didn't want to, which surprised Jia. She asked him why, and he replied that drinking too much could cause muscle loss, even flexing his arms while saying so. Jia rolled her eyes and muttered that she must be crazy for waiting to have a proper talk over drinks with a man who only ate chicken and vegetables 3 times a day like a gym rat. She reminded him that they had promised not to force each other, so there was no need for them to drink together. She asked him to just return to his room. Yet Minchul stood up, saying that he thought it was necessary for them to do something like that once in a while. Even though he could not drink the same beverage as she did, he could still raise a toast. Jia praised him for that, and Minchul then asked what exactly she wanted to discuss. Jia paused, realizing she had forgotten the reason she had called him in the first place. He had asked him to join her for a drink without much thought, and now that they actually had time for a serious conversation, she had nothing to say. She stammered, suggesting that they should first raise their glasses. She gulped down her beer, thinking that she no longer knew what she wanted to say and that it might be easier to drink first. She believed the right words would come after a little alcohol. After 2 glasses, her thoughts loosened, though perhaps a little too much. She began mumbling about everything, asking if he remembered or was only pretending. She reminded him of the day he had been so cold and distant with her. Mchul, holding back his irritation, said that he truly did not remember. Ja then asked what had been wrong with him, pointing out how he had left suddenly to do something, yet his body had trembled in anger. Mchul, still shivering slightly, muttered that he had already told her that he had gone easy on her back then, and wondered aloud how many times he had to repeat it. Jia laughed, saying it felt the same as that time, and added that it had been great then. She recalled how she had gone over to his house after school, where they played, fought, and argued. She remarked that everything had felt fun back then. When Mchul called out her name again, he saw that she had fallen asleep. He poked her gently, but just then the alarm clock buzzed, waking Ja with a start. She asked about the alarm, and Mchul told her that she would catch a cold if she slept there. If she was tired, she needed to rest properly, and he would take care of cleaning up. Ila apologized, thinking that since she had not drunk in a long while, she had become weak against alcohol. She had ended up drinking all the soju beer, even though she had bought them to share.